Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Coulter. I am with Pinsight. I'm a client advisor. So basically, that means my job is to hold the hand of new clients and make sure that any questions they have get answered in a timely manner. Feel free to send me any questions you have after this presentation, and I'll be happy to speak more with you about this. I've prepared a deck that I'd like to walk through today, and we are going to talk a little bit more about the Pinsight assessment solutions that we have. So allow me to share my screen with you here. Excellent, here we go. So Pinsight has been providing leadership assessment solutions for about 13 years now. Our CEO and founder, Dr. Martin Lanick, began working with DDI several years ago. And through his time working in in-person assessment centers, we realized that there was a need in the market for a more scalable solution that was more cost affordable to businesses of all sizes, rather than just the companies that can afford to spend tens of thousands of dollars sending their leaders to in-person assessment centers. So after we developed our virtual assessment center, we then realized that we had all of this analytics and rich data about all of these candidates that we were able to put together a customized development plan for each of those individual participants that went through our simulations. From there, we were able to put together a whole suite of succession planning analytics that you can use to really identify those high potentials that you want to be putting in a short track for those promotional decisions that you're making. Some of the key differentiators of our platform is that we've really invested over the last 13 years in our technology to create efficiencies for the administrative process of using these assessment solutions. For example, we built in an automated scheduler so that whenever you have a candidate that you'd like to put through a simulation, you're able to put in their email address, and then the candidate is able to select a time that works best for them, while factoring in the availability of our assessors. So this allows us to provide virtual assessments 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Another unique factor about Pinsight is that we also have live video role plays with our assessors. So a candidate is going to be in a situation where they may have an angry customer that they need to deal with. And rather than asking them objective questions, how would you handle this situation? We provide them with an angry customer in a live video role play and ask them to handle the situation. So then we are also able to then provide you with the sophisticated analytics that you need to be able to make those important decisions. And of course, we have the mobile development app as well that allows your candidates to continue developing their skills throughout their course of time with your company. Go to the next slide here. Pinsight has been investing, like I mentioned, in our technologies, and what we really focus on is creating this day in the life simulation. So if you've ever taken an assessment, which I'm sure a lot of you have, ours is designed to essentially be the worst possible day that you could have as a first day on the job. And it's really meant to stress test the individuals that are going through this assessment, because we don't want them to necessarily have ample amounts of time to make a decision. We want to see how they're able to perform, which competencies are naturally rising to the top, so that we can really see how they would perform in that real life scenario. They're going to engage in live role plays with human consultants, like I mentioned. They're going to have in-basket activities, case studies, presentations, and psychometric tests that they'll need to complete as well. The assessment is going to measure common leadership competencies, strategic thinking, empowering, entrepreneurship, et cetera, depending on the level of assessment that they're going to be taking. We have a predictive validity of 0.54, which is on par with the link between cigarettes and lung cancer. So very high accuracy rates here. Our clients are reporting that they're 6 times more likely to retain talent, 6 times more likely for their individuals to be seen as a high performer, and overall a 14% increase in employee engagement by using these assessments. I'll talk a little bit about the scheduling and how the process works. So once you've decided that you have X number of people that you'd like to put through an assessment, Like I mentioned, all you need to do is put in their email address, and then the automated scheduler is going to send out all of the information to the participants that they need to know to be able to schedule their time. We ask for a minimum of 48 hours so that we can notify our assessors, make sure that their schedule is locked in. And during that time, the candidate is going to have access to the pre-work that they need to complete. This is going to include an audio visual check to make sure their cameras, microphones are working. It's also going to allow them to complete a roughly 20-minute personality questionnaire. This is going to model the Ravens model. From there, they're going to be asked to complete a learning agility assessment, which is based off of a language-free, culture-free assessment. So between the personality assessment, the cognitive learning ability assessment, we're able to then triangulate all that data with their performance from the simulation to really be able to provide you those sophisticated analytics that you need. Once the pre-work has been completed, they will then begin their virtual assessment. This is going to range anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on which assessment they're taking. And then 24 hours after the assessment is completed, the results will be ready for your team. So that means that if you have somebody that you want to schedule on Monday, they can have their assessment on Wednesday, and then 24 hours later on Thursday afternoon, you have their results ready so that by Friday, you guys can be making those decisions that you need to make. So really speeding up the time to get this information that you need to make those important decisions. Here's a little bit more about the types of analytics that we can provide you. I'm not going to speak too much about this right here because I do actually have this pulled up, and we're just going to go into the platform so that you can see how this works. So we'll come back to this in just a second. And then we, of course, have the app, which is going to allow your candidates to continue to develop those skills even after their assessment is completed with as little as 5 minutes a day. And we're going to be able to track their improvement for you in real time as well. And then just real quickly, there's a couple of our clients there that we work with, just so you can kind of see the breadth of companies that we're working with. There's not really any particular industry that we focus heavily on. We work well with companies of all types, all sizes, all different types of industries. So I'll flick over now to our actual platform here so we can see the analytics. Now, what we're looking at right here is the administrator's view of, in this particular situation, 4 different candidates that we had take a customized senior level assessment. So this is going to be for your executive level assessments. And what's unique about Pinsight is we can actually not only view all these analytics in real time, but we can also compare them to each other. So in this particular view, we're going to look at all 4 of these. So here we can see right off the bat, we're looking at a readiness graph here. So this is going to say right now that Hans is ready now for this position. He would perform very, very well in this. Whereas Juanita and Maria need roughly 7 to 12 months of development based off of their personality and their performance in that assessment. Whereas Lu Win here needs more than 12 months of development on her skills. We can also then take all of these candidates and plot them on a 9-box. So we can see here, we have Hans, and then we have Maria and Juanita, and we have Lu over here. We can look at each one of their performances on that day. But if you remember, I mentioned the mobile app that allows us to track their improvement as well. And all of that information is being live fed back into this analytics platform so that we can even look and see, okay, well, how are they performing today after they've been working on their improvement skills? We can look at a bench assessment here. This is going to be for those strategic initiatives that the company has, where you can group specific competencies together for a core strategic objective and see how each one of your candidates have performed in regards to that particular objective that's important to your business. The skills gap is really great for identifying where your management team should be allocating their time as far as resources on development for a whole team. So for example, in this particular situation, we had 4 people go through our assessment, and all 4 of them began with a skills gap in eliminating barriers to change. But we can see that after improvement, actually one person has improved that skill enough to where they no longer have that skill gap. So that would be a situation where you'd want the manager to interact one-on-one with that particular individual to help coach and to mentor those skills rather than focusing on it from a group level. We can then also have the option to add in a narrative, which is just a section where your talent manager can go in there, give their high level executive overview about this potential candidate. If it's for a talent selection process, it may be where you want to put in notes from the other interviews that can be combined then with the Pinsight report. We'll of course look at the individual participants here for their ability to on their performance here. So we can see with Maria, she scored overall in the 44th percentile. This is important because it is showing a benchmark ranking compared to all other senior executives that have taken this assessment globally. So she's in the 44th percentile of everyone else that's taken this assessment. We can see here what her original score was on her performance. So mentoring and coaching, very strong for her in the 84th percentile. And then we can see in the shaded boxes, the improvement that she has done on this particular skill after the assessment has been completed. So this allows us to really look and see where she's strongest and where she needs to be spending some time working on her skills. We can then also see down here the skills, the definition, the scores, and the improvement for each individual competency. One thing that's actually pretty unique about Pinsight as well is that we have the ability to customize this language to meet whatever needs your company has. So for example, we might call this particular skill mentoring and coaching, you might call it a coaching attitude. So whatever your language is that your employees are used to seeing, we can map those particular definitions to our competencies so that it looks and reads like what your company is already used to. We'll go over here to the potential now. This is where we're able to take that learning cognitive ability test and be able to tell you how likely somebody is to want to be able to learn and how quickly they are able to learn a particular skill. And we can come up here and we can look at this for each of the different people that have completed this particular assessment as well. Now, when we look at our skills and motivation graph, this is a really helpful graph. Let me just switch over here to Maria again. This is a really helpful graph because basically what it does is it's almost like a 9-box, but for each individual competency that they're working with. So here we can see that on Maria, her number one skill was that mentoring and coaching. We can see she performed very well at it. But it's not necessarily super in line with what her personality says she's going to do. So she can do it, but it's not super important to her that she wants to do it. Whereas over here, we can see that building strategic relationships, this is something she's highly motivated to do. And with a little bit of work, she could be a stellar performer at it. Now, what you'll also notice here is these circles are of varying sizes. And that is how well this particular competency aligns with their personality of this individual. So for example, the bigger the box, the harder it is going to be for them to develop this particular skill, whereas the smaller the box, the more in line with their natural inclinations. So if we were to look at number 13 here, eliminating barriers to change, this is going to take a lot of work for Maria to be able to improve upon. Whereas something like mentoring and coaching is a natural ability for her that she should be able to improve quickly. We can also then look at this one from a dynamic view and say, okay, sure, that was great that they performed so well back then, but let's go ahead and take a look at how they have improved. So we can see all the boxes have shifted. So if there are important competencies, you can actually watch them progress as that person works on their development plan. We can then take a look at our behaviors. So this is where we're going to dive into each one of the individual competencies that we were assessing. And then we're going to be able to show you where in the assessment was this particular competency monitored. So for example, in the mentoring and coaching competency, we were looking for 4 micro behaviors: collaborating well with employees on drafting their development plans, facilitating a reflection to enhance employees' learning, provide timely feedback that is behavioral focused, and support employee development with useful suggestions. During each of these micro behaviors, there were 2 different situations or exercises that we were looking for this particular skill. So they had a direct report issue, and then they had a talent situation exercise that came up that they needed to work in. So we could see that this micro behavior was strong in the first exercise, and then moderately strong in the second exercise. So this just allows us to go in here and then look and say, okay, well, what is their personality like that would influence these particular micro behaviors? And we can do this for every single one of those competencies that we've listed out. So you can see that this is starting to become a very, very thorough and comprehensive report. I believe that the PDF reports for all of these is probably somewhere around 74 to 80 pages for this particular assessment. So as much information as you could possibly want, and probably a little bit more information too. We're then able to then go and look at the personality assessment report for these individuals. So we can see here, Maria is maybe in this red flag zone where organization is not her strong suit. She's very disorganized, less detail oriented. The reason that this is important is because it can drag a team in one direction or another. So that means that if she is extremely disorganized and your team has an average of being in the middle range of this particular personality component, then she could be pulling that team towards her, or in the other direction, they could be pulling her towards them. But these are just red flags that you may want to be keeping an eye on. Whereas in the situation of her outgoing personality, yes, she's in that butter zone right there where she's charming, talkative, dynamic, enthusiastic. We can then look at the other personality assessment reports as well. And from there, we can then say, okay, well, we've had our 4 candidates go through this simulation, and now we're maybe at the point where we're ready to make a selection. So we could say, okay, we're going to go with Hans, or maybe we want to invest in Juanita or Maria and, really work on developing them. But at this point, we may want to come in here and say, okay, we'd like to turn on the development plan for this particular individual. Once that development plan has been enabled, each of those individuals are going to have a customized plan built specifically for them based off of how they performed in their simulation. So we are going to be able to recommend specific competencies that we think that they should focus on. This is going to say, okay, during your assessment, you performed very well at these particular skills. However, we might think that with a little bit of improvement on a particular skill, they're going to be able to master that one. So it may not be that they want to practice their worst skills first. They might want to practice their best skills first, or even their medium skills. But we'll put together a customized recommendation for them. However, they do have the option to modify this if they see fit. Let's say, for example, that I'm in a situation where I have a big decision coming up this week, and it's going to affect the next strategic decisions for my company over the next year or so. I may want to prioritize setting strategic priorities right now and focus on that for my weekly behavioral practices. I can then go in here and do my daily exercise where it's going to give me a prompt and it's going to ask me to think about this particular situation, write down my comments, and then tick the box that I've practiced it. Again, we're really focusing on those minute micro behaviors that are essential to every single one of these competencies that we've laid out. After I have practiced, I can look and say, okay, well, so far I've improved 21.11%. This is going to be based off of our algorithm that we've calculated that takes into consideration their personality, how quickly they're able to learn new skills, how interested they are in learning those particular skills, and of course their baseline scores from their performance. So all that algorithm is doing is calculating this improvement score for you. And then this number is actually being pushed back into the analytics platform so that you as the administrator can actually keep an eye on how are my individuals performing after the assessment has been completed. We can then look at our overall improvement scores as well. So we can see that, while we did improve 26.62% on formulating concrete vision, overall, our improvement has been 7.37%, and we practiced a total of 304 days already. So this is really convenient to be able to just keep an eye on that. If you are going to be doing any kind of one-on-one mentoring or coaching with these individuals, this is a really great debrief that you may want to do when talking with them on your one-on-one sessions. Let's see here. What else is there? that's really all I needed to talk about as far as the app is concerned. We can go back in here and talk some more about the different. We'll just leave it there. Yeah, I think that's. I talked a little bit faster than I was expecting to, so I apologize for that. But I can open it up now for any questions if anybody has any particular questions that they'd like me to go through. Let's see, we got here a chat. 10 minutes. Okay, excellent. Well, if there are no other questions at the moment, I'm happy to wrap it up at that. Excellent. Jason, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, great.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. That was great. Thanks.
Thank you very much.